but Kate didn't. After her death, it's not clear for how long, but strange things started happening in her room, 3327. Some of it was small, like the chain from the fan moving like someone had brushed it, or the lights flickering on and off. Classic stuff like that could be a sign of a haunting or easily explained away, but Kate didn't stop there. Many guests and staff have reported seeing an imprint of a woman on the bed that wouldn't go away, no matter how much they tried to smooth out the covers. One man staying in room 3327 even said his blanket was ripped off in the middle of the night by what seemed to be a shadowy outline of a woman at the foot of the bed. Another guest in 3327, referred to as CCM, said that she woke up late one night to get a glass of water. While CCM drank, she decided to look out the window at the ocean waves below. That's when she noticed a woman walking down the outside stairs. Immediately, CCM thought something about her was odd. She thought the woman seemed to be in what she called a period dress, wearing a long white blouse and a long dark skirt. Then, as the woman walked down the stairs, she suddenly stopped. She turned towards CCM's room and looked right at her. If that's me, I'm getting right out of there. No packing, just straight through the door and grabbing an Uber. And CCM definitely freaked out. All the lights in her room were off. There was absolutely no way for this woman to know CCM was watching her, unless she was a ghost. For years, the Dell wanted to keep these types of sightings under wraps. Even as late as the 1960s, management was actively trying to keep it quiet. But Kate's ghost was so active, there was no silencing her. And eventually, someone might have figured out why. In 1989, a lawyer named Alan May heard about the story of Kate Morgan and decided to book a room at the Dell. Sure enough, he had his own ghostly encounter with Kate. Alan said he saw a pair of eyes and a smiling mouth coming from the TV while it was turned off. The experience definitely freaked Alan out, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. He even went to stay in the room a second time later in 1989. Something about Kate was calling to Alan, like she wanted something from him. Once again, he saw the eyes and the smile, but not just that. He saw a shadowy apparition of Kate and heard a voice. "Hell no!" When he asked Kate what she wanted from him, she told Alan, quote, "At the end of your journey, you will understand why it was you." What? Checking out now. You can keep the money. It's giving refund. Like, it's... Hell no. I do not have the receipt, but you can keep it. Like, I am leaving. Kate went on to tell Alan to use his training as a lawyer to discover her true fate, and that there was more to her story. Right after that, Alan went to the San Diego Historical Society and got a copy of the coroner's inquest into Kate's death. One detail stood out to him in particular. The gun that Kate brought was a .44 caliber, but the surgeon who examined Kate's remains said that she'd been shot by a .38 or .40 caliber bullet. And apparently, Kate's husband carried a gun that could use that kind of ammo. It's always the husband. Could this be why Kate's ghost had lingered at the hotel all these years? To try and get someone to realize that her death wasn't a suicide, but a murder. Unfortunately, that's not a question we may ever be able to answer. It doesn't seem like Alan May's investigation ever went further than that. With almost 100 years having passed since Kate's death at that point, it's not like there was much he could have done anyway. In any case, the Dell, which had published its own book on Kate Morgan, doesn't really consider any alternative theories aside from her death by suicide. But they do believe that Kate is haunting the Dell. And in 1992, a century after Kate's death, the hotel management even asked a famous ghost hunter to come see just how real her spirit was. That year, a paranormal researcher named Christopher Chacon started a long-term study of the spiritual activity at the Dell. He monitored certain parts of the hotel 24 hours a day over the course of an entire year. Christopher used every type of equipment imaginable to record temperatures, electrostatic emissions, air currents, radiation, vibrations, light spectrums, and that's just some of it. He interviewed over 1,000 people too, including visitors, staff, and contractors. Half of them had reported seeing some kind of paranormal phenomenon, while the other half was randomly selected. Once the investigation was over, Christopher had collected over 10,000 hours of material, and he decided it was an instance of what he called a classic haunting. Some of the more common occurrences were things like moving furniture, doors opening and closing on their own, faucets turning on and off, mysterious shadows, pockets of extremely cold air, and disembodied voices and footsteps. Not to mention things he couldn't record, like stories of guests and staff hearing and seeing things they couldn't explain. But the strangest thing about this is that none of it actually happened in the room where Kate had stayed. According to Christopher, most of the activity had came from the room where the maid who supposedly tended to Kate had lived. Honestly, that was a pretty surprising development. It's possible there could have been a connection between them that nobody knew about, or maybe Kate's ghost didn't want to be the subject of that kind of scrutiny. It's one of those things that we'll have to chalk up to an everlasting mystery. But either way, the story caught the attention of one Stephen King, and it inspired him to write 1408. Thankfully, Kate Morgan's spirit won't drive you to your death. The hotel staff says she's pretty harmless. And her old room is one of the most requested at the Dell. So you can stay there if you're brave enough.
If you're brave enough, subscribe now. Just search for @Crimehouse Studios on YouTube. And remember, reality is the real horror.